Redeemer and giver of life. Amen. Francesco Bernardone surely marched to the beat of a different drummer. Most of us prefer to think of him as St. Francis. You know, that statue in the garden with the birds resting on it and maybe some little animals nestled around his feet. But the truth is that Francesco is so much more expansive than that image. Francis, as he became known, has been sweetened, to use the words of Pope Francis, the Pope who has taken his name and as well has taken on his message, calling people to love one another as I have loved you, calling for peace throughout God's creation and the end of all war. According to tradition, St. Francis was told by God to repair my house. In other words, to transform the church as it had become in the 13th century by reordering the emphasis on hierarchy and ritual and wealth and power into a church that is humble, a church that is radically inclusive, a church that looks out for the poorest and brings them hope. Francis believed that religion should be a force for peace and not a cause for violence. And that led Francis to travel to Egypt during the middle of the Fifth Crusade, where, as tradition holds, he met with Sultan Malik al-Kamil. When finally the Muslim forces drove the Christians from the Holy Land, the Sultan surprised the world, treated the Christians with mercy. Was it Francis's influence? Well, perhaps. Could have been. Why not? There are rumors that the Sultan had become a Christian at Francis's feet. Maybe so. As I have read more about St. Francis, it seems clear that his life was not about sentimental love of nature, but a clear understanding of the interactive nature of creation, the mutual respect and regard that humankind and the rest of the world needs to experience. Treating the earth as an object, an it, over which we have power, objectifies the earth and lets us think we have power over it, and lets us think that we can exert that power, do whatever we wish. But furthermore, if we act as though we have power over the earth and all its creatures, we act as though we have power over one another. Power over relationships are always destructive. They always delight in violence. It is obvious to me, and I expect to you, that when we live in a time of fragility, when the earth is bumping up against demands of more and more people, it is a time when the faith traditions in the world, there are faith traditions in the world, whose sects have become fixed in the belief that their interpretation is the only interpretation, the truth, and it is their responsibility to convert or eliminate any that do not agree. Jihadists have continued their violence across the world, kidnapping girls from a Christian school in Nigeria, beheading journalists in Syria, and UN peacekeeping forces in Mali, and all the religious minorities that were left in northern Iraq. As the Islamist state grows larger and more powerful, both Western states and nations in the Arabian Peninsula have band together to challenge that violence with violence. Every night on the news, we hear yet another case of domestic violence. There is nothing domesticated about the abuse of power over another human being. As the story of Hannah Graham's kidnapping is told across the country, more accounts of sexual abuse are revealed in colleges across the nation. And the casual attitude of too many in authority is being dramatically pointed out by students. In one case, a student carrying around a mattress to make her point. And what has happened is that she's not alone now. Other students are coming out and helping her carry that mattress around, helping her carry her burden of suffering and of loss, and making a point to those people in power. It is indeed a mistake to sweeten Francis and to remember only his love of animals. His belief in God's presence and in God's love, which circles and surrounds us, led Francis to preach the gospel of equality, not power over, hospitality, not hostility, peace, not the sword. In Matthew's Gospel, chapter 11, which our gospel was taken from this morning, chapter 11 begins with the story of John the Baptist sending his disciples to ask Jesus, "Are you the one who is to come?" And Jesus responded, "Go back and tell John what you are hearing and seeing. The blind can see, the lame can walk. Those who are weary and overburdened are strengthened and refreshed for our task in the world." And then Jesus says, "Come unto me, all you that are weary and heavy burdened, and I will refresh you." Reminds us of an incomparable, compassionate love of God that is a gift that empowers us to live into the life with God as responsible human beings who seek a deeper relationship with God and with one another. The yoke that Jesus offered is about sharing the load, like those young people that are carrying the mattress with that young violated student at Columbia. It is the hard work of living into our covenant relationship with God and with our neighbors, and reminding us that we are not alone, whatever the burden is that we carry. The rest that Jesus offered, it's not idleness or inactivity, but strengthening to carry out God's passion for justice and for peace, which is rooted in the respect of dignity for every human being, and living lives through which others are able to find peace and justice. My friends, you and I are blessed. We are blessed with the freedom to make choices. We are blessed with the freedom that is reflected in the words we choose to use, with the actions we choose to take, with the commitments we choose to make, with the checks we choose to write. What do yours look like? How do we care about those who are needy in this community and beyond this community in the world? From the blessings that God has given to us, how do each of us, in turn, honor God? The truth is, we are on a journey, both as individuals, as a church, as a nation, and yes, indeed, as the world. My prayer is that as we continue on this journey, we will become more open and listen to the heartbeat of God, recognizing that the divine Spirit is in all creation. My prayer is that as we reflect on the events around us that fill our world, we consider what God would have us do and be. In 1997, when he was instituted installed, I should say, as the presiding bishop of the Protestant Episcopal Church. Frank Griswold spoke about the crucifix from the Church of Santo Domingo, where Francis had prayed at the beginning of his conversion. Frank Griswold said, "Moved more by curiosity than by devotion, I passed through the door and entered a darkened chapel. There the crucifix was large, larger than I had imagined, illuminated by a single spotlight. As I sat in the darkness, contemplating the figure of Jesus, as one might contemplate a work of art that one has read about, but is seeing at last, I found myself drawn to the cross as though it were a magnet. After some moments, I looked down and saw that a prayer in 4 languages had been affixed to the top of the kneeling desk. It was, as I learned later, a prayer written by Francis himself before this very cross. I now found myself drawn into the prayer. Most high, glorious God, enlighten the darkness of my heart, and give me, Lord, a right faith, a certain hope, a perfect charity. Give me, Lord, wisdom and discernment, so that I may carry out your true and holy will. Amen.